Hey Fam Bam, welcome back. Today I'm going to be talking to you about how minimalism has changed for me in the last 10 years. Remember to let me know that you like these videos by hitting the thumbs up button below. As always, stick your questions and comments below. And if you're new to the channel, thank you so much for visiting. Welcome. Subscribe for more videos on how to level up your reality by simplifying your internal and external spaces. So when I first started minimalism, there wasn't a term minimalism. What happened was I was kind of a maximalist. I was this young shopper and I was leaving home when I was young. If you guys haven't heard my story, I've done a couple videos on why I left home when I was 12. And I left with this laundry basket, pile of my clothes. I think there was a curling iron or straight iron and some of my stuff and my book bag. And when I was living out of my home for the next 5 years, I didn't know where to put all my stuff. And I literally had stuff everywhere and I depended on people to help me get my stuff and move my stuff. So the idea of being minimal didn't really exist. It was actually all about wanting more and trying to figure out how to have the capacity for more in my life. By the time I was in college, it got really old really fast. Most kids go to college and they have a room at home that they can leave with their mom and dad, and they have that space to come back to and just sort of feel at home. For myself, I came to college with my TV, my DVD, my surround sound, 2 surfboards, like everything that you can imagine, my scooter, my bicycle, like everything. And it was all the stuff that I owned. And it was really cool at first until I had to move to one dorm for the summer, then back to the other dorm. Then because my apartment wasn't ready, I was moving out of the dorms after the school year, I had to put all my stuff in storage. Then I had to move it into the apartments. And then after the school year was over, we all switched apartment and then had to move it again. And I really felt envious of my friends who just kind of came with the school stuff they wanted and the personal stuff they wanted. And I just thought, I can't handle like dealing with all this stuff. So I started slimming down, but it wasn't really like a massive slim down and it didn't feel life-changing. I just knew that I didn't want to deal with all this stuff. And there was one time where somebody actually came into my apartment and stole a bunch of stuff, and I was kind of glad because I was just over having to deal with it. And that kind of struck me because I was always very possessive over my things. And it kind of struck me that I was just kind of almost more relieved or like, well, I don't care. And when I moved into or out of college into the business world and lived in my own apartment in Orange County, I spent so much money to live in this high-rise apartment that I couldn't even afford to furnish it properly, to have like nice paintings or like full-blown furniture. Most of my furniture was given to me or I got off of Craigslist. I had a friend who loaned me like a 60-inch plasma TV. I had another friend who loaned me this nice white convertible sofa that turned into kind of a chair or a sofa chair and then turned into like a bed. And I had a friend who was leaving to move back to New York and he gave me his extra tables and lamps. And I kind of got by on taking other people's things, that when I moved into a new place that couldn't fit it all, I stuck it all into a storage. So wrapping up this story, my husband, when I first met him and we were together, looked at my storage and asked himself, I wonder how much of this stuff is actually worth the amount of money you've put into storage over the last year. I did the calculations and of course, it was so beyond exorbitant, the amount I've spent for storage in comparison to the value of the things that I owned. And that is the point where I was really kind of like grossed out or disgusted by the fact that I didn't even stop to think about what value these things were adding to my life, and I was just storing them mindlessly and throwing money down the drain. And ultimately we ended up selling a lot, if not all of this stuff on Craigslist, and it didn't come close to amounting the cumulative cost for storing them. And so I never really got to use them again, and they were just being stored there just in case because I didn't want to feel like I was wasting anything. So that's the moment where minimalism came into view do with me. And it was just literally me being like, is this worth keeping? Is this worth storing? Is this worth dragging around? And there was a lot of pain attached to that because of this evolution or this journey that I've been on. And slowly over the course of time, people started getting this term and exposing this term minimalism, but mostly the images were of people who lived out of their backpacks and owned like 50 or less items. And that was really cool, and they had a lot of freedom and they lived really simply, but it wasn't for me. So I didn't identify with the term minimalism. I didn't even know that I was living in the philosophy of minimalism by choosing what added value. And at that time, it was like so wishy-washy. It was just, at first it was just my stuff, then it was just organic and whole foods and like health, but there was still a lot of consumption and like non-direct or like, you know, clear lines that were going on. So minimalism over the last 10 years has changed a lot for me because it's been an evolution of the process. And the first thing that I realized is that it's not about counting or this ideal, you know, living out of a backpack, 50 items, or living in a tiny house. Not that those are not minimalist, but it's really about identifying what adds value to you and continuing to grow and build and evolve from that point of value. The next thing that has really changed is that it changed me because I changed, I grow, I evolve. And with this perspective or philosophy, it helps direct you in your choices and your decision making. Originally, I thought I knew the plan. I thought I knew what I wanted in life and where I was going to be. I was going to be famous and be a performer and all these different things with a fancy house and a huge, you know, fancy house and car and all the brand name clothings. And like, I never knew that today I would give no care in the world for that stuff. In fact, when the house gets bigger, it gets overwhelming to me. I like my spaces kind of small. There's less to clean. There's less to manage and watch out for. And so many things that I actually prefer over a smaller space. And I never in my life thought that I would be okay with anything less than 5,000 square feet. So the third area that it changed in me was that it made me a better person. I never knew that the idea of identifying what adds value or like really being aware or you know, taking mindfulness in your stuff and your spaces would actually contribute to like improving myself. Like I thought it would improve my spaces. I thought it was kind of like feng shui, you know, where I'm like, you know, it's going to feel nice and like environmentally it's going to look nice and there's, you know, energetically it's going to, something feels right about it. But it actually molded the type of person that I am because I take this philosophy not just into my stuff, but into every aspect of my life. And if you're doing this continuously, you're guaranteed to change, and you're guaranteed to change for the better because you're identifying and taking in more value over time. The fourth thing that I realized that's changed for me about minimalism is that it's universal. It applies everywhere, to everyone, in any space, at any time, all the time. Whether you are in a tiny house or living out of your backpack, whether you have a family, whether I'm single and you know I want to run a business that requires me to have more things, it just applies all the time. So it comes back to that idea that it wasn't this picture perfect thing, but it's not also just applicable to your things. And it's not, number 5, not a destination, it's not a goal, and ultimately, it's not minimalism. It's just a way of living and making decisions. So the idea of minimalism has come and gone for me in the sense that it's all been this evolution, it's all been a process of being on the journey. So what I hope that you take out of this video is the realization that no matter where you're at, because I've seen a lot of comments, people say, I'm trying to be a minimalist, or I'm just starting minimalism. I want you to realize that there's no being anywhere and there's no starting to get anywhere. That minimalism is just a choice. If you exercise the thought of, does this add value in my life? Do these actions, do these words, is my energy adding value to myself and to others? The practice of that is minimalism, or whatever term you want to call it. We just talked about the difference between minimalism or essentialism, whatever ism. Just the idea that you're trying to be conscious and aware and to build that awareness, the result, the visual expression of it, what ends up happening doesn't matter, and it's going to change. There have been times I've been more minimal than I am now. And that added value to me at that time. And this notion ebbs and flows, and that's a part of the whole process. That's what makes it beautiful. That's why it is applicable to anyone, anywhere, anytime. So what I want to know is what minimalism means to you, how it's changed for you from the first time you've heard of it to right now at this point in time. Let me know in the comments below, because it's a fun conversation to have, and I think it's a fun realization to realize that you can't do it wrong. You can't do it right, you can't do it wrong. You just need to be aware. And it's a beautiful, beautiful tool that is so simple, so accurate, and has such an ability, the power to create so much value and such positive changes in your life, which is ultimately why I'm so passionate about talking about it and sharing it with you. So thank you guys so much again for joining me here on this video. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your week. Find something that adds value to you. Really take some time to appreciate it, because that just doubles the value. Appreciation doesn't double, like 10 times value, 100 times the value, 1,000 times the value. Appreciation is a huge part of the formula to creating a life worth living. And I will see you guys back here for Healthy Hump Day. Remember, be good, be great, be grateful. Ciao for now.